I'm a Venice, California-born, Los Angeles-based sports fan, one that has played, coached, announced, and promoted sports my whole life. My love affair with sports started in my own backyard and has led me to this podcast. Thanks to the support of the Amateur Athletic Union in East Bay, I'm excited to bring you Sports Stories with Denny Lennon. Welcome, sports fans, back to the end of a two-part Sports Stories feature of the award-winning sportscaster, Randy Rosenbloom. If you missed part one, it is, of course, available on our website at sportstoriespodcast.com, on YouTube with associated images and archives, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. The first time I worked with Randy Rosenbloom calling the AAU Junior Beach Volleyball National Championship games for Time Warner Cable, I was highly impressed with both his knowledge of the sport and the apparent background work he did on the players in the broadcasted games. This was not always the case on local cable coverage of high school sports, especially junior beach volleyball. I specifically remember one of my previous play-by-play partners, in an attempt to describe an athletic beach volleyball play, yelling out, "Nice volley." That's not Randy, no sir. Randy's a pro's pro. Randy will know the entire roster of the Hollywood High School Chic soccer team, along with the name of the assistant coach of the JV team and the assistant principal that oversees the athletic program at the school. He can tell you the San Pedro High School Lady Pirates girls softball school's all-time home run leader, the highest scoring game in Fresno State football history, or the UNLV basketball assist leader from 1997. Randy's called UCLA college basketball games with John Wooden, and he's worked as a play-by-play man for 3 Olympics, famously calling out "the drought is over" when the USA men's rowing team finally won a gold medal in 2004. This guy has done it all, and he's done it all so well, he's a member of the Jewish Sports Hall of Fame as well as the LA City Section Hall of Fame. That's why something that Randy is also famous for just doesn't make sense. Randy has been, well, to put it out there, viciously maligned by wrestling fans for his work on the 1999 pay-per-view broadcast of the Heroes of Wrestling. A quick note here, the Heroes of Wrestling has no affiliation with the Sports Stories partner, the Heroes Movement, the strength and training program for veterans of the armed forces, which has been gaining more and more momentum under the fine leadership of Mike McKay, a guest in the first season. Back to the Heroes of Wrestling pay-per-view event. It was intended to capitalize on the popularity of pro wrestling stars from the mid-1980s and the early 1990s that had faded out. The Heroes pay-per-view was like a Legends reunion of sorts. Professional wrestling has a long and storied history, evolving from the traditional forms of Olympic-style wrestling into a more fan-friendly, performative style with different regional tours and stars. What is considered the first golden age of pro wrestling, at least in the United States, was post-World War II, when television was coming of age and began broadcasting wrestling matches. The most notable star of this time was a Nebraska-born Gorgeous George, who was a household name in this era of wrestling. In 1950, when Mona Lisa by Nat King Cole was a top song, Cinderella from Walt Disney Studios was popular in theaters, The Lone Ranger was a hit on TV, and our 33rd president, Harry S. Truman, was in office, Gorgeous George defeated Don Eagle to claim the AWA World Heavyweight Championship. While social conformity and conservative attitudes permeated American culture during this time, glamour boy George stood in sharp contrast, having developed an exaggerated, effeminate behavior in the ring. His shtick struck a chord with fans who were watching on TV and packing arenas everywhere. Gorgeous George would fight his last fight in 1962 at the Grand Olympic Auditorium in Los Angeles with none other than Jimmy Lennon serving as a ring announcer. Gorgeous George Wagner would die a year and a half later of a heart attack at the age of 48. The second golden age of pro wrestling was fueled by the emergence of cable television in the mid-1980s and into the 1990s. This is when the World Wrestling Federation, now known as WWE, emerged under the leadership of Vince McMahon, and wrestlers like Andre the Giant, Ric Flair, and Hulk Hogan became household names. If you listen to the last episode, you'll recall that my uncle, Jimmy Lennon, was not only a popular boxing announcer, but also a ring announcer for pro wrestling matches at the Grand Olympic Auditorium in Los Angeles from the 1940s on. But he's not the only member of my family that had an affection for the sport. My son, Vaughn Lennon, born in 1992, was one of those kids hooked on WWE through cable TV. By the late 90s, Vaughn was all in. The 7-year-old would turn on WWE, then put on a Hawaiian shirt. You see, he had billed himself as the wrestler Tropical Storm. I would announce him. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the living room, Tropical Storm. He would make an entrance, stand on the couch, and then perform various takedown moves on a pillow. It was the best. I am quite sure he wasn't the only kid in America acting out wrestling moves in their living room. Vaughn's favorite wrestler around this time was an ex-University of Miami football player that went undrafted by the NFL, ended up being cut from a Canadian Football League team, then decided to pursue pro wrestling. Dwayne Johnson, known as The Rock, would help build the WWE into a worldwide brand. The Rock then parlayed his notoriety from wrestling into a film career as one of the most successful actors of all time. Playing roles that range from the Scorpion King to the Tooth Fairy, his movies have grossed over $10.5 billion worldwide. Can you smell what The Rock is cooking? Pro wrestling fans are passionate. They are rabid. And so, when some of the legends they emulated from their childhood were coming back for a pay-per-view event in 1999, billed as the heroes of wrestling, well, these fans were pumped. The only problem? This Heroes of Wrestling pay-per-view would join the likes of the Hindenburg and the Titanic as massive disasters. Just about everything that did go wrong with this Bill Stone promoted event in Mississippi. Pay-per-view sales were underwhelming, the wrestlers were fat and out of shape and well beyond their prime. Jake the Snake Roberts, well, okay, he had fallen off the wagon, hard. In a trash-talking promo, he came up with some classic lines, and I'm not using classic in a complimentary way. And what he did with a snake in the ring in full sight of everyone, I mean, this was supposed to be family-friendly programming. This is all well worth a look on YouTube, or you can catch some of the links on our website. However, the person who took the most fire from wrestling fans was my Sports Stories guest, the award-winning Hall of Fame sportscaster Randy Rosenbloom. Randy was a last-minute replacement on the show with little or no time to prepare, and he was matched with the analyst Dirty Dutch Mantell. Wait, Dirty Dutch? Of course that guy's going to do you wrong. And he threw Randy in the Dutch oven, so to speak. Randy, as you will hear in the interview, is proud of his performance. He doubled down on the Dirty Dutchman and his Dirty Dutch ways. So, all of you multitude of wrestling fans that came hating on the Randy one, and I'm talking about you, Brian Regret, and Adam Whatculture, and Behind the Titantron, and Kim Justice, and especially you, Christian Maracle, a multitude of sins for you, and all you Randy haters can stick your heads in a Dirty Dutch oven. Randy, Randy, Randy. So now that I've dropped Gary Cox, the Sheiks, the Lady Pirates, John Wooden, the 2004 USA men's rowing team, Mike McKay, Gorgeous George, Nat King Cole, Walt Disney, the Lone Ranger, Give 'em Hell Harry, Don Eagle, Vince McMahon, Andre the Giant, Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, Jimmy Lennon, the Hindenburg, the Titanic, Bill Stone, Jake the Snake, Dirty Dutch Mantell, Christian Markle, Tropical Storm, and The Rock. Can you smell what the Randy one is cooking? From the Sports Story 7428 studio in Westchester, California, here is part 2 of my interview with the award-winning sportscaster, Randy Rosenbloom.
I don't like necessarily doing interviews. I even get bored and sometimes go out in left field on broadcast. But when there's drama, when there's big moments, I can play with the best of them.
You will lock in.
I will lock in.
So your first Olympic Games, 84?
Public address in 84.
What'd you do?
Basketball.
I was a public address announcer.
One of 3 guys rotating at the Forum.
Are you familiar with the 3 C's of public address announcing?
I'm not.
You've got to be clear, concise, and correct.
1 out of 3 isn't bad. I was somewhat clear.
My uncle, Jimmy Lennon, took me aside after announcing some women's pro beach volleyball, and he had taken notes throughout the course of the day.
I could have used his help.
And he told me everything I said wrong that day. And I was excited just that my uncle, the great boxing announcer, was there. And then he started telling me everything I mispronounced. And he finished by saying, and boy, whatever you do, don't embarrass the family.
That's great.
So that improved me quickly, Randy.
The other two, Denny,
So what was your public address job at 84?
20 men's basketball games. Michael Jordan and company.
Come on.
Yeah. So.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah. So
you were the one who announced them coming out on the court?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Patrick Ewing, Michael Jordan.
Come on.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
So the other ones who did it, the other 2 public address announcers, The late Don Sawyer, who did the Bruin games for many, many years.
Okay.
I was friends with Don. And that's where I became friends a little bit with John Ramsey, who, to my mind, is the greatest public address announcer in L.A. history.
Okay.
Did the Dodgers, Lakers. He did everybody.
Sure.
He was just the voice of Los Angeles. What a sweetheart. And again, I knew Don from my days at UCLA and all that stuff. I did not know John. And John Ramsey was a phenomenal guy. Unfortunately, we've lost him. But that was great. And it was supposed to be a volunteer position.
Yep.
John said, no, I'll do it for inexpensive, but I won't do it for free. And because of John, we all got paid a little bit. So John Ramsey was a phenomenal guy.
So that was 84. You know, one of my heroes growing up and watching high school basketball was Leon Wood. Played at
I got
St.
Leon
Monica.
Wood stories, too.
And Leon Wood was on that 84 team. As a matter of fact, he set some kind of Olympic assist record when he set the state scoring record as a high school player for St. Monica. And and now he's been a long-time pro, referee. And I would love to get Leon. So I'm just yelling a little shout out. Hopefully Leon recognizes the last name and listens in, and it'll get a hold of me because he's a good guy.
I used to know him. He owes me $20. His son is an assistant coach, or was last year at Santa Margarita Catholic.
Okay.
And so I told his son he owes me $20 on a game we bet. I think it was Pepperdine Loyola 1,000 years ago, and he told his dad, and he goes, I don't remember anything. I'm not giving him $20. I don't know.
I'm going to collect. I'll collect for you.
See if you
right
can get
here
the $20.
on
I don't
podcast.
really care about that. But.
So you're a PA, and then what was your next Olympics? Which one?
92, Barcelona. I did the Olympic triple cast. I did the volleyball indoor. I worked with the late Kirk Kilgore. We built a tremendous relationship. Kirk was a great guy. We became very close. He lived close to me. He lived in Van Nuys, and I lived in North Hollywood, so I would go over to his house. He was a quadriplegic, as a lot of people may or may not know. He hurt himself in playing volleyball overseas in Europe and Italy.
Right. Yeah.
But
the Kilgore Cup, I think, is still given out. UCLA USC game or something.
They would bring 4 teams in there, and they would exchange.
Oh, that's right.
At the Kilgore Cup, and Kirk and I were close friends, and I emerged as a volleyball announcer greatly because of him and Marv Dunphy.
Okay.
Marv's the longtime coach, now retired at Pepperdine, and Marv taught me a lot. Marv was instrumental. We're still close friends, and Kirk was just great. I would go to his house, and we would just go over every little detail. I was fortunate to have him just a couple miles away where his house was to my house.
And so that's how you could learn that sport and anticipate when you're calling the play-by-play.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. And then what was the third Olympics?
We had Athens and in between Atlanta where I did the beach. Did the greatest beach volleyball match in the history of the sport, and I'm proud of that. Karch and Kent Steffes and Hinkle and St. John Smith.
St. John Smith.
I don't think people realize it. I caught him at the tail end of his career, St. John Smith. But off of what I saw, I was astounded how good, and I know you love volleyball, Denny.
Sure.
How good defensively he was, and he was an older guy already.
That's the thing. His ability to anticipate and see the play was unmatched because he was a very good athlete all the way around. That wasn't. It was just his ability to anticipate, and he just had those amount of repetitions. As did Karch, just for so long. But Karch spent a lot of time playing indoor, and St. John played primarily beach, minus the UCLA run.
Now, you've seen more volleyball than I have. I know that's your sport, and you've been involved with it for many, many years, and more of the beach than I have, even though I got involved with it. I cannot imagine anyone in the history of the sport being better than him controlling the ball the way St. John Smith did. His ball control was unbelievable.
It was astounding. So was Karch. Karch laid in there. As a matter of fact, I was looking at the newspaper, and I saw this picture of Karch, and he, at 42 years old, had won the Hermosa Open or something. And I thought, that's really lazy of them because they had the same exact picture last year in the times when he won. And I actually had taken and cut out that picture, and I went, and they were different pictures. But what it showed me was how consistent Karch was in his approach to the game. That he didn't matter how old he was still getting that low, had that platform, had that technique. And I was like, wow, that's why he's him. And, same with Singe. You could look at Singe over the years, and you're not going to see, that technique is always going to be nails.
It was a one-set match. It was pool play. It wasn't a medal match. 4 match points for Henkel and Smith. Steffes and Karch fought back and won it. And there was a real rivalry between those two going on at the time. And Karch afterward basically apologized to Henkel and to Smith, saying, you guys really deserve to be here. You guys were great. It is still to this day considered the greatest beach volleyball match of all time.
It was time and place too, right? Because
Atlanta.
beach volleyball had become an official.
This is
medal
the first
sport.
time.
Yeah, it had been a medal sport. 'Cause I think it was demonstration in Barcelona, maybe, or
this was it. It was the first medal. It was
and then
96.
and then you had your two huge stars, because Karch was known indoor as the greatest ever.
Right.
And then it certainly made his mark in beach.
Sure.
And then St. John, of course, had this long run of being in popular culture along with being the beach. And, there's this great time in beach volleyball when you had AVP on the weekends, and then there was another 2 nights, WPVA and the Bud Light Tour.
Sure.
And beach volleyball was really in the public consciousness. And anyways,
I was really
that was
fortunate.
a really big moment.
I was really fortunate to be in the right place at the right time. I kind of wanted in my heart, because I was friendly at the time with Smith and Hinkle. I'd watched them practice. It's not that Karch is a great guy. I don't know Steffes a little. I just met him a few times at the Olympics. But, I was kind of rooting for the underdog. And they had 4 opportunities to close them out. Couldn't get it done. Give Steffes and Karch all the credit in the world for pulling it out. But again, and they went on to win the gold. And give them all the credit in the world.
You called a lot of college sports through the years.
Sure.
So BYU, what do you remember there?
Steve Sarkisian at quarterback, finishing in the top 5 in the country. 96 was the year. I had just come back from the Olympics. I remember that they won every game I did on TV. It was the blue and white television network. I took over for Craig Bolerjack, who went on to network. And it was a lot of fun. I did 2 years there. The second year they were just an average team. But with Sarkisian there, and we didn't do the Washington game, the one they lost. Had they won that game, they had one bad half, they would have played for the national title.
Wow.
They ended up finishing 5th. They
right,
went to the Cotton Bowl and beat Kansas State. For many, many years, I did the Outback Bowl. I did the Outback Bowl on network radio for 12 years. And I remember
Outback Bowl,
Tampa.
That's right.
So
Tampa.
I came back into my room.
Important question. Did you get
to watch that BYU team.
Did you get to eat whatever you wanted at Outback when you did the Outback Bowl?
They brought us food in the press box.
It's important.
Bloomin' onions, baby. Okay, so during that BYU Kansas State game, I come into the room. It's near the end. I had just done the Outback Bowl. K-State's coming down the field to score to win the game, and I'll remember Omar Morgan, a defensive back for BYU. I had done their games. Intercepted it inside. They were inside the maybe 10 or 15.
Right.
He intercepted, preserved the game. BYU wins the Cotton Bowl and finishes 5 in the country.
That was unreal. Was that the Snyder coached
Bill
K-State
Snyder,
team?
yeah.
Wow.
Bill Snyder and Lavelle.
I
love Lavelle Edwards, by the way.
Lavelle Edwards. One of the interesting things I've heard from athletes, volleyball players, basketball players, so in arena settings, they always said that the Utah fans were the most abrasive.
I didn't find that.
Isn't that interesting?
I didn't find that at all. I thought they were.
Said they were the loudest and certainly cheering for the home team, but they also were. Anyways, UNLV. What do you remember there?
I'll get to that in a minute, but I just want to say about Lavelle at BYU, and they always had 65,000 at Cougar Stadium. You'd see his stern face on the sideline. You'd say, that guy has to be a creep, right? He's got to be a bad guy. Could not have been nicer to me.
Nicer guy.
I remember I came back to do a BYU football game on radio the following year, ironically, after I'd done the 2 years of TV. Lavelle was doing his pregame show up in the booth before he went downstairs. Mm-hmm. He personally came over and thanked me, Randy, for 2 good years, and I'll never forget that. Lavelle Edwards was a class act. UNLV, what do I remember about that is Randall Cunningham. Randall was our quarterback. I did 3 years of Randall.
Wow.
82 to 85. I love Randall Cunningham. I can give you another story when I did one of his games with the Vikings too. But Randall was just fun to watch. He made magnificent plays. He still to this day has played for the greatest team in UNLV history. He won 11 games.
Sure.
He wasn't the starting quarterback when he began there his first year, but his junior year when they won the 11 games and won 11-1, they lost to SMU. But
does that stadium still stand? I'm confused about where the Raiders are building.
No, it's a different. They're going to be at a different stadium on the Strip.
Okay.
If you're on the Strip now, you cannot miss.
Yeah.
It's right next to the freeway, with the new stadium. But they played out at about 7 miles off of campus.
Okay.
So at the Silver Bowl. So
Silver Bowl.
Randall Cunningham. Great memories. Unbelievable plays. I remember a game. I know Jake Downey, one of our friends, is working on this show. We're playing San Diego State at the big stadium in San Diego. UNLV ended up winning the game easily, but I remember there's a play where Randall threw the ball across the field and it's intercepted. And you're thinking the guy's going to run down the field for a touchdown, and I see Randall race across the field. Now, normally a quarterback would push the guy out of bounds. Randall shoulder tackles him. You see the guy who intercepted it spin. The ball flies out of bounds. The interception still stood. But Randall almost decapitated the guy. And here's the other thing about Randall Cunningham. Twice All-American punter. He averaged 48 yards a punt.
I did not realize that.
Yep.
Did he punt for the Eagles when he played there?
No, but he did have a quick kick for the Eagles, which is the longest punt in NFL history.
I love it.
98 yards, cannot be broken.
Wow.
From the 1 to the 1. Look it up. Randall Cunningham
that is beautiful.
Has the record. Now, I heard stories he wanted to place kick for the Rebels.
He's like a throwback and a prototype for the future type of quarterback, right? He's the guy who does all of the skill work for you like the great quarterbacks would.
Yeah.
And then he's also what we will see
now, Michael Vick and all the others. And what we see today,
everybody just, big,
Mahomes
athletic
and Watson.
quarterbacks that can run.
Yeah, Randall was the guy.
He was.
And when he broke containment, you really wanted to keep him in the pocket. And some of the coaches there wanted to keep him in the pocket. I'm saying, guys, I go, gentlemen, when he breaks outside of containment, they can't defend the receivers downfield.
Was he lightly regarded as a pro only because he came from a conference that wasn't one of the big universities?
No.
Because he seemed to come – to me, he came out of nowhere. When I was watching pro football, I was like, whoa.
Well, I had a close friend who was the sports information director at Pepperdine, Bob Rose, who was at Stanford as the SID later. And we used to argue, I'm telling you, my guy's going to be better than your guy. He had Elway and I had Cunningham. He won. But Randall still had a phenomenal career. No, the concern on Randall was not where he came from. They knew he had talent. They thought his delivery was too slow.
Okay.
But the way he delivered the football, but that obviously didn't pan out. He had a tremendous NFL career.
Tell me about Fresno State.
Well, it's quarter of a century doing different Bulldogs. I went away for a while. I did Trent Dilfer's games. I did David Carr's games on TV. I did one of Derek Carr's games on television later. I still am associated. I don't know if I'm going back this year. I hope they don't see this. I don't do the men anymore. I did after many, many years on TV, the local TV package went away. It was a local TV package, which had historic numbers in their marketplace. So then I did radio with a gentleman by the name of Paul Loeffler. I did color when he would leave for his ESPN radio assignments or TV assignments. I would fill in on the play-by-play. Then when they brought in another gentleman to do the analytical work, they wanted a coach. I got moved over and did the play-by-play for the women, which I still do.
Almighty.
I don't know if I want to do it anymore because I have a local television package with KDOC now that has expanded, and I'm doing college and high school basketball, the best teams in Southern California in high school, and I'm doing some Big West TV there, and it might be too much. I have to make that decision tomorrow.
Jeez almighty, Randy.
Yeah.
Wow. I got tired just listening.
Because if I do the women's games – to go with the TV package, I'll be doing 40, 50 basketball games in a 3-month period, and that's a lot.
One thing during the games I would do with you, it always fascinated me how you seem to know an entire roster, even if we were just doing a low-level high school team or if we were doing a credible, college team. And you seem to know the roster, you knew background on the coaches and all of this. Do you have some kind of terrific memory as you've gone through time to be able to compare it against other people's?
I remember a touchdown call I made with Randall Cunningham to Michael McDade in Fresno at the California Bowl, which no longer exists. That was Randall's final game. Icky Woods was on that team. He was a freshman running back.
California Bowl, would that have been at Anaheim Stadium?
No, it was in Fresno.
Fresno.
A harbinger of things for me to come.
Okay.
But I remember that call because I made the call, I gave the yard lines, I gave the blockers going downfield, and as I look back at that now, I can't do that anymore. I can't see, and I don't have that kind of recall. When I was younger, I had amazing recall. I'm watching shows now. In certain ways, I'm stronger today than I was a long time ago. In other ways, I can't compete, and that's one of them. My eyesight isn't nearly as good as it used to be. But that call, that UNLV touchdown call in the Cal Bowl where I had not only the yard markers, I was saying he's at the 40, gets a block from so-and-so at the 35, gets another block from Jones at the 20, he's at the 15, he's at 10. I don't know how he did that, but I did it.
But I also respected very much because I always felt the same way coaching, and if not calling or promoting an event, that irrespective of who the athletes were, they deserved your best.
Sure.
And whatever game I'd listen to you on or work with you on, you had everything memorized, and you would call the game to the best that you had. You didn't just mail it in.
Well, there's a lot of guys I looked up to. It was Scully, Ray Scott, I mentioned before, and there were many others. It was also Columbo, and I'll tell you why. The detective. Columbo, the last thing he always asked, I got one more question. And that is Randy Rosenbloom to a T.
I love
and
it.
I would always go back with these coaches
these
players
to
go.
Our audience would know who Columbo was.
No, that's why I wanted you to explain.
That's why I did.
So,
Columbo's
but I would always go back to
Yeah.
people getting information. But I got one more question for you.
I got one more question.
And I would try to get as much
That is
information, and I still live by that creed.
There's a few more questions I'd like to
I
ask.
can spend the month
So I have
with
a
you.
question. Oh, I got more for you, buddy.
Fire away.
Wait till we got a quiz at the end. You're going to like this.
I know what it's going to be.
But I had a poster up in my room as a kid. It was of the great O.J. Simpson carrying the ball for the Buffalo Bills in that 2,000-yard season.
Mm-hmm.
It was big. Anyways, I understand that you worked with him on an HBO.
Not directly. I met him later at the Olympics. I believe it was Atlanta's where I met him. But I did the voiceover on an HBO series First and 10.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And it wasn't just a normal voiceover. It was an episodic. It was a very popular series on the network. I did 11 episodes. And I just recently, 2 weeks ago, went back to look at them. And there's 4 or 5 of those shows where I'm the main character. And that really, I have more pride on that show now looking back, realizing that it was Delta Burke, O.J. Simpson, and a lot of big names on that program. And the fact that they trusted me enough on certainly 4 or 5 of the shows. I was the voice of the California Bulls, and it was a storyline around this football team, much more than football. But on 4 or 5 of those shows where I had 30, 40 lines, I mean, you're talking a big chunk of the program.
First
so I'm
and
very
10,
proud of
sure.
that. First
All
and
right.
10.
You do a documentary, also narration about Nick Young, the NBA star?
That's true.
What's interesting about that documentary?
Well, I called the basketball scenes in the movie. It's a story about Nick Young. His brother was murdered, and how he and his family dealt with the young boy that murdered his younger brother, and how they had to overcome their early hatred for him and get over the fact that they killed his brother or their son, because the mother's involved too. Andre Chevalier, now the great basketball coach at Sierra Canyon with all those great basketball players.
He was part of that, sure.
Oh, yeah, he was one of the stars of the show because he was Nick's coach in high school at Cleveland High School.
Is that right?
Yeah, so
Wow.
so it's a story about overcoming. It's called Second Chance Season with Nick Young. That was a great story. I'm glad Nick was able to overcome the fact that he lost his brother to that shooting.
Sure.
And it was so much fun for me to call the basketball scenes in the motion picture.
You know, being named to a Hall of Fame, certainly a sign of good work, a sign of longevity, and you've done both. So tell me about the Hall of Fames you're associated with.
2 of them. The first one was the Southern California Jewish Sports Hall of Fame. That was in the mid-'90s, 96. I was doing a project in Canada, a video game, and I had to come back. I wasn't living in the United States. I was living in Calgary, and so I had to fly back for the night, and it was a great honor to go into the Southern California Jewish Hall of Fame. The oddity, as we have this air, is I just produced for them all these years later the anniversary 30-year video of the Southern California Jewish Hall of Fame, highlighting the greatest stars of the 30 years. And I'm excited to when it comes out.
Yeah, I got a sneak peek at that. It's wonderful.
I appreciate that.
I mean, some of the wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
I had
Some
Sean
of the people you
Green,
got to sit and talk. And
Amy Alcott,
Brilliant.
Mitch Gaylord. I was able to interview a lot of different great people.
It's fantastic.
And it was fun. It's 10 minutes. It's a mini doc, and I'm very proud. Mickey Shaw helped shoot the show and edit it. R.J. Downey helped me with some research. The Southern California Jewish Sports Hall of Fame is close to my heart. Now, and the other one is the LA City Section Hall.
Now, am obviously, my whole life I've loved high school athletics. I think it's the sense of community and the sense of history that comes with it. And for those that don't know, because obviously this is getting picked up, there's a southern section component to how the extended Los Angeles area works. And those tend to be, they can be public schools, but in private school districts, private schools, and the like. And then there's the city section, which have to lie somewhere within the city of Los Angeles as a component, so to speak, and part of the LAUSD, right, where the others. Okay. Now, that said, the city section tends to have this great history, but they also tend to have a lot of obstacles because they just don't have the resources
to
always keep up.
Right.
But their sense of spirit and heart is encouraging.
Character.
And character, right. And so when I saw that you went into that Hall of Fame, I thought I was perfect because that's the way each year, you and I lined up for about 3 or 4 years calling the city section championship games at the Roybal Center. Yeah. And I love the way they go after athletics and that sense of pride they take in it.
I've had a long career. I think, there's been some ups and downs like everyone else. And in Los Angeles, I think most of the people have seen me on these high school games.
Yeah.
Especially in the city section.
LA 36.
In other parts of the country, I've done a lot of other things. So, I've probably done 150 to 200 LA City section championships in all the different sports: football, basketball, baseball, volleyball, tennis, track and field. Those come to mind immediately. Yes, I did the tennis with Ramona Shelburne, who's now at ESPN.
Wow.
She got frustrated because we had trouble keeping the score. It was an edited show, so nobody knows that. But I love Ramona. She's great. She's in my video, by the way, in the Southern California Jewish Sports Hall of Fame.
We'll for sure link to that.
But yet, I've had so many wonderful years with the LA City section. And as a mediocre athlete at North Hollywood, I could have never imagined myself as an athlete getting into the LA City section Hall of Fame. Now, I got in for my media television presence, but I'm going in with guys like Anthony Davis, the original Anthony Davis, not the basketball player, the one who played football at San Fernando and at USC.
6 touchdowns against Notre Dame.
Yeah, including the kickoff return to begin the second half. So, I'm going in with people like that. I went in with Marv Dunphy, who was a coach at Taft, volleyball, obviously very good. But there's so many. Vince Ferragamo went in the night I went in. I can go on and on. But to be in there with that kind of illustrious company, athletic company, was mind-boggling to me.
Now that you're on the committee, I'm going to throw a name at you.
Sure.
Marley Rice.
I know.
Okay? Two-time, she's coordinating producer for Sports Stories.
Love it.
Right? But two-time Western League MVP.
Sure.
Girls basketball. Two-time All-City. One of the top scorers that Venice High's ever had. And then it's gone on to a distinguished career in coordinating high school beach volleyball for some of the city section schools. And now coordinating producer for a soon-to-be moderately known podcast.
Well, they have a really good host that she's working with, so that really helps her in Denny Lennon. I would say this. This class has already been voted on.
Okay, fair enough.
And there's a.
You just keep it in mind.
No. Get the resume to me. I'm serious.
I will get the resume to you.
For next year. Because every year we'll take anywhere from 10 to 12 that'll get in. Now, that being
said. And theoretically, she could have picked up an assist today if you would have hit that first shot on the opening.
That's going to hurt her. That's going to hurt her that I didn't make the shot. But I did get the rebound. But it wasn't her pass, certainly. It was my shooting.
Okay. No, I will tell you. No, that city section.
But there's a Dodger who's going in, and I won't mention his name.
Okay. All right, so some might find their niche in one sport, right? Mm-hmm. But here's the Randy that's done them all. Clippers, UNLV football, Liberty, and Hula Bowls. And you mentioned the California Bowl?
And the Cal Bowl. I've done about 10 or 12 different bowls.
Wimbledon tennis championships?
That's correct.
True.
On radio.
Raiders talk?
Yes, I did it with Jim Plunkett.
How about UCLA basketball?
Well, we all know that.
Softball World Series.
Yep.
Beach volleyball. Mm-hmm. Canadian football?
Yeah, CFL was fun. I did it with the late David Hum. We did the Las Vegas Posse for a year. David was a wonderful man. Do you know who David Hum was?
I don't.
He was quarterback at Nebraska, played for the Raiders, played on 2 Super Bowl championship teams. He was the backup to Ken Stabler.
Okay.
Stabler's backup. He was another lefty. Unfortunately, we lost David recently to MS. I love David Hum, one of the nicest people I've ever worked with. The Hummer was a great, great individual, so David and I did those games together.
Volleyball? Football? basketball play-by-play for Prime Ticket and Sports Channel America.
Correct.
Fresno State football, basketball, 7 years. Ivy League basketball?
Yeah.
How did you do Ivy League basketball? What was that?
Well, that's going to lead you probably to Heroes of Wrestling, but Billy Stone, who was the producer of Fosstone, I was out of work, and I was not insecure about reaching out to people, and I called his producer in San Diego, and he gave me this name. He goes, call this guy Billy Stone. He uses guys, and give him a call, see what if he needs people, because the guy at San Diego at the time didn't have any openings. So I called Billy, and he immediately gets on the phone. He goes, I need a color analyst for boxing in Charlotte, North Carolina. And he goes, I'll pay you, but I'm not going to fly you there. I had all these miles built up over the years, from flying around for all my different assignments. I go, Billy, I'm there. He goes, I'll get you a rent-a-car, I'll get you a room, you're doing the event. Good. So I flew there,
Ivy League basketball.
This is boxing.
Oh, that's boxing.
So I do the boxing for him. He loves me. We had a great time. He hires me for Ivy League, WTA tennis on TV. And the Ivy League, I was doing Ivy League basketball on Friday nights and Big West basketball on TV on Saturday nights. And let me tell you, that was not easy travel.
Jeez almighty.
That was hard.
Yeah, that's a little bit of commuting there. So I'm going to take a guess and say the only sport that maybe you've had a little trouble at was wrestling.
Heroes of Wrestling.
Tell me about Heroes Wrestling.
Well, your podcast numbers just exploded. I am the most.
We have a big wrestling contingency that.
I am the most vilified and hated broadcaster in the history of wrestling. So I guess it's a badge of honor. It's the 20-year anniversary of the Heroes of Wrestling.
And where does Heroes compare to WF? Like, explain that universe.
Again, I'm not a wrestling guy, but at the time they had these different governing bodies, and Billy Stone wanted to honor all the alumni who were kind of out of it.
I see. So it's kind of like a Legends tour.
It was a Legends tour, and that's what they wanted. This was going to be not just one show. Mm-hmm. So it was a pay-per-view event in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi.
Oh.
And
who would have thought they liked wrestling in Mississippi?
And Gordy Soley, or Solly, whichever way you want to pronounce it, was supposed to be the broadcaster. He was a big name in their industry. I never met the man.
Okay.
He was the guy, and he was going to work with Dutch Mantell. And Gordy took ill, later passed away, unfortunately. And I was summoned in the last moments, a couple weeks in advance, probably 3 weeks. I don't really remember. And as I look back at it, and I had not looked at it in a long time because I've been so vilified and hated.
Because you called a couple of moves wrong?
Yeah, and my point is,
misidentified.
Who cares?
You said safety, you should have said touchdown.
Well, no, it's more like safety, and I'd call it 1+1er.
I see.
Okay, so I explained the event, but I didn't really use their terms.
Okay.
So
the lexicon.
Yes. So they just tore me apart. But now
social media did.
Social media killed me. I mean, I'm the worst wrestling announcer in history.
Well,
okay, now, but
you're first at something.
Yeah, and hopefully other things. Recently, 2 articles have come out taking my side online.
Okay.
Long articles you can check online.
I like it.
Untold stories of the Heroes of Wrestling is one, and another one is from a broadcaster's perspective, which is me. That one, ironically, was done from Fresno-based because I was a longtime Fresno announcer who was involved with this Heroes of the Wrestling. But to tell you, it was an interesting experience, and it's the one thing that does hurt. When you see all that kind of vitriol toward you, I mean hatred, over a couple words, and I go back and I look at it, and parts of that show I'm really good on. And and I was thrown in there, and there was some things that were completely out of my control. They changed endings. We had blood splattered all over our table, fake blood that the wrestlers had. It was a crazy night in Mississippi.
That does, I think what we're going to do, because I like these kind of stories.
Sure.
Is we'll probably we'll open up a part of our website, and we'll let the fans come on in and tell us about that night in Mississippi.
I know one thing they're going to say: we hate Randy Rosenbloom.
You never know who's going to come in on your side. Well, and we're gonna get to the bottom of this, Randy.
Well, there'll be few and far between. We want the volleyball people to come in because that's where I feel great.
I have a quiz for you.
Sure.
I hope you're excited about this.
I was never good in school.
You ready?
Sure.
One of the things I like from the LA City section is the nicknames of a lot of the high schools.
Okay.
Because I think they actually have something to do with the name of who it's named after.
Sure.
Something to do with the area that they live in, or they're just plain fun.
Okay.
So let's see how many you get. You ready?
Sure.
The Academy of Science and Engineering. What do they call themselves?
You're talking about. I'm not sure.
I know they're new. This one's I didn't watch
Academy.
They're the Adams.
Adams.
Animo Oscar De La Hoya School.
Well, I just did Animo Robinson. They're the Monarchs, but this De La Hoya I have never done any.
They're the Boxers.
Okay.
How about Banning?
Banning's we know Banning. Banning's the Pirates.
The Pilots.
Pilots. Okay.
Yeah, I knew you say pilot because of the aerospace industry.
Yes.
Yeah, of course. All right. How about Carson?
Colts.
Yep. How about Chatsworth?
Chancellors.
Cleveland.
Cavaliers.
You're on a roll now. The Dorsey.
Dons.
Yep. How about Girls Academic Leadership Academy?
I'm out.
Goddesses. I can't let you go all the way through. Hamilton.
Hamilton's the Yankees.
They're doggone right they are. Hollywood.
Sheiks.
Good story there, isn't there?
I got a lot of them there too. I played football against the
They
Sheiks.
called themselves the Sheiks because that's when they were filming Lawrence of Arabia, right?
Yeah.
And Omar Sharif went there.
Yeah.
Something along these lines.
Yeah.
Jefferson.
Jefferson is the Democrats.
Los Angeles High School.
Los Angeles Romans.
Yep. How about Lacey's?
Laces I should know because I did some of their
Uh-huh.
games. I want to say the Tigers, but I may be incorrect.
The Unicorns.
Unicorns. Okay,
There
I
you
should
go.
know. I'm going
All right. The Manual Arts.
Toilers.
The Toilers. That's right.
See, the old schools I have no problem with.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I wouldn't have got a few of those other ones. Marshall. Named
Marshall
after
Barristers.
The Barristers. Named
Love the
after
Barristers.
the Supreme Court Justice. Narbonne.
Gauchos.
Gauchos, baby. How about North Hollywood? We know that.
Well, I'm the Huskies.
You're the Huskies. How about Polytech?
Parrots.
Parrots. How
Sun
about
Valley.
Port of Los Angeles?
Port of L.A. Oh, my God. I got their keychain, too. I had a guest on who was from Port of L.A., and he gave me a keychain. Let me go back to that.
Polar Bears.
Yeah, they're the Polar Bears. Yeah.
How about Pally?
Pally? Dolphins.
Yep. Roosevelt?
Rough Riders.
The Rough Riders. How about Taft?
Toreadors.
Yep. Wilson?
Mules.
The Mules. Westchester?
Comets.
That's right. Part of the space industry. Washington Prep?
Generals.
And my favorite, of course, growing up, third generation in the city, Venice.
Gondoliers.
The Gondoliers, baby. You did pretty well.
Yeah.
I'd say you probably got in your C, D, F range that you live
That's
in.
what I am. That's who I is.
Okay. All right. You ready?
Sure.
Rapid fire. Pick one. Mayo or Miracle Whip?
Mayo.
Tacos or burgers?
Definitely burgers.
Cake or pie?
Pie.
Beer or a cocktail?
I don't drink at all.
Ice cream or frozen yogurt?
Ice cream is one of my favorite things in life.
Bacon or sausage?
Neither.
You go cats or dogs?
Definitely dogs.
Spiders, you kill them or you put them outside?
I'm a bad guy.
There's only been one that's even given the spider a little bit of life so far. All right. What was the name of your first pet?
Mister.
What kind of pet was it?
Dog.
Oh, nice.
Love Mister.
First car. What was your first car?
Oh, man, I don't remember. I would say Chevrolet, and I'm not sure the model.
What was your nickname as a kid?
It wasn't good.
Shot putter?
No, it was. They would make fun of my legal name, so I don't know if we.
Sure.
They would call me Ira, and then they'd sing my name, Ira Rosenbloom. See, the Randy came from Ira Andrew, so my parents gave me Randy when I was a kid.
I see. Okay. Well, Christmas or Thanksgiving do you prefer?
Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I'm Jewish.
I know. But, you can still.
I like them both.
There's a lot of good basketball
I
games
get presents
on Christmas.
on Christmas, though.
What is your favorite ice cream, by the way?
Chocolate and vanilla, it's a toss-up.
Dream vacation.
I've been to a lot of places, and I always enjoy going to Hawaii, and I've been there over 30 times because of events there.
Is there a word or a phrase you refuse to use?
There's two of them. One starts with the N, referring to a segment of our population, and the other one is a Jewish word that starts with a K that is similar to the N word to the Jewish community.
It's interesting that I ask people to name the word that they don't use. I got to get rid of that question. You're the first one who basically didn't say it because you don't use it.
I don't use it.
Wow. Took me to a new level there, Randy.
Well, that's not true. I do use it when I explain the words, when we talk about it as a subject matter. But to degrade people with names, and the Jewish one that starts with the K, I was called as a kid.
Yeah.
By a lady who was nice. She was my next door neighbor. I'm still friends with her kids. But I guess it hurt me in a way, although I don't believe that it did. I don't, I'm not bothered by it, but I still remember it.
Of course.
And I just think, why? What benefit did she derive by calling me that negative word?
No doubt.
And the same thing is when a black man or woman is called by the N-word. Why?
Yeah.
What does it prove? I don't get it.
Well, you lived a life of uplifting people in what they do, because people put a lot into their athletics. They put a lot of the effort in there, and you're the one who brings it to the rest of us. And you make it sound awesome, and you make it fun. And I've always appreciated that about you.
I appreciate that, Denny. And I got about another couple hours. I have to go because I have to do a show tonight.
We'll take a break.
Thank
you, Randy.
I got a show tonight. Good luck with the program.
Right on, buddy.
You take care.
Sports Stories with Denny Lennon is supported by the AAU. Find a local event and join at aausports.org. And remember, you can catch your favorite amateur sports live stream, replays, and highlights at ballertv.com. Sports Stories, along with East Bay, supports the Heroes Movement, a nonprofit that bridges the gap from mental or physical therapy to getting strong again through strength and conditioning workouts. This free service is available for any veteran of the United States Armed Forces. Visit heroesmovementusa.org for more information. Sports Stories with Denny Lennon is a production of Sports Stories, Inc. and is available on Apple Podcasts and YouTube or wherever you listen and watch. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and give us a review. It really helps spread the word. You can find all our social media links, archives, and other info on our website at sportsstoriespodcast.com. Original music for Sports Stories is courtesy of Lennon Music Productions. Special thanks to the John R. Wooden Course and Wooden's Wisdom. Sports Story staff includes Marley Rice, Teresa Dolan, Bob McCall, Michael Lennon, Sienna Lennon, Brad Lawson, Christine Jimbo, and Jake Downey.
Check it out, Buck.